Hey, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today's adventure in a very familiar location with a hot tent setup again for this evening. So if you guys caught an episode about 2 or 3 weeks ago, you would probably recognize this area. I had a very long, red, low profile hot tent. I decided to come back to this exact location with, yes, a new tent and a new-ish wood stove. We'll talk about that later on. Just because I knew the lay of the land, I knew the wood source, and absolutely silent out here, which I'm loving. So the tent, the wood stove, sleeping area is totally set up. Luckily, as I was here a couple weeks ago, there's still a bunch of firewood left here on the ground that I didn't burn through last time. So I'm gonna clean out the area of the tent, get all this snow kind of kicked out of here, do a little bit of inventory on the wood that I have, and then I am going to collect some wood from around the area. There's all kinds of firewood here, and get that wood stove cranking and start on a hot coffee. So let's get started. Alright guys, now that the fire is burning quite stable, and I've got a pot on there with a whole bunch of this ice, kind of like sugar snow. It's ice crystals, so it's actually going to pack a little bit more water yield than just snowflakes. While it's doing that, I went off just behind the tent and got lucky. Actually found a couple pieces of dry, dead hardwood. The bark is peeling off of this. Looks like it's going to be really good. So this is the type of stuff that I would save for realistically overnight, later in the evening when I'm relaxing inside the tent. Because right now I'm out moving, getting wet, gathering wood, doing this, doing that. I'm not really trying to trap heat inside of the tent. This is kind of nighttime firewood, if you will. So I'm going to prep this up. Hopefully that'll start boiling very soon. I'm not really concerned about the particles that are in the water. I know a lot of people are probably going to comment like digging deeper in the snow and whatnot. The water is going to boil. And secondly, it's going to go through my coffee filter. So this is actually going to catch all the particles. And there's even pieces of ice and little pieces of wood sawdust and stuff in the coffee right now. It'll add flavor. But that will strain all of that out. The water will be boiled and so on and so forth. While I'm here chatting, doing firewood, I might as well also address everybody screaming at their TV saying, why does your tent not have a floor? Well, it does have a floor. Most hot tents do not have a floor in the common area. Some don't have a floor at all because you would use an elevated cot to sleep on top of. Half of this tent has a sleeping area which is fully enclosed with a floor and a bug net. The whole thing can be removed and this can be a big open hot tent. The reason why there's no floors in hot tents, to anybody out there that has no experience, this is aimed at you. There is a ton of wood prep going on inside of the tent. You can see all these pieces of wood that are in there all have these little pokies on them. You're going to put holes in your floor, if there were a floor, within minutes. You're just going to be walking in and out of the tent with your boots on. All this snow is going to land on top of the floor, and then it's going to melt on the water. It's going to be stuck on top of the floor. So it's nonsense. I highly, highly recommend if you do get a hot tent and it does come with a floor option, fold it half. Do your sleep area with a floor, your non-sleep area like I have right now, open, mucky, dirty. I can go in and out. I've got this foil kneeling pad here that I use for kneeling on while I'm inside of the tent. Outside everything's covered in snow. I can always dry out my clothing later on, hang it up top with the wood stove. It'll dry overnight. But all the wood prep and all the stuff going on inside the tent, you would absolutely destroy it with a floor. It just doesn't make any sense. And like I said, I'm not going to take my shoes off every 2 seconds. I need to go in and out of the tent. That's ridiculous. So yeah, let's prep this up. I'm going to do this really quickly. That water is almost about to boil. Actually, once that's boiling, I'll be able to make a hot coffee and then relax for the first time since hiking out here. So let's prep this up really quick, set it aside for tonight. All right, guys, first look inside of the new tent, and I have got to say, I absolutely love it. So this is a very, very familiar tent to some of the viewers who frequent the channel here. This is from Nature Hike. It is the massive tent, but it is not the two-person that you normally see me use, which is more of a gray kind of whitish color. This tent is kind of a sand, almost like a tan kind of color. I know it might be hard to pick up on camera. And this is the solo tent. So the same name, massive tent, but this is the solo version. The differences between this tent, the biggest differences are, one, it is an exoskeleton pole setup. So the sleeves are only that long and they're down on the corners where they would hook onto. So a hub system of poles that is exoskeleton, which makes this tent extremely fast to set up, extremely fast to tear it down, even in bad weather. The second large difference with this tent, other than the size, because the two-person obviously goes back farther, it has a two-person sleeping area, but the biggest difference is the doors. The door on this side, which is the left side of the tent, in the other tent, the two-person tent, it's actually on the right side, and the whole front door can open up. And it has snow skirts. This tent does not have snow skirts, and it only has one point of entry, which is right here. And also the two-person has another entry through the back of the tent. So, and all those doors have bug net. This tent does not have bug net for the main door. It's just a solid panel, but it does have bug net for the inner. And I think that's pretty fair considering there's no floor. You wouldn't really need a bug net in the door area during winter time. But it does have a little half moon window right up there. Loads of gear loft storage in this inner tent. And there are panels of this inner tent that are actually solid panels. It's the identical color of the mesh, so it's really, really hard to pick out. But this panel on the side above is actually a solid panel. And then there are mesh down on the foot. Obviously this whole side's mesh. So a couple key differences here. The reason why I'm mentioning this is because people have been asking, what tent is that? In a lot of videos, this is one tent that looks very similar to another tent that I have and use very, very often and absolutely love. This is just the little brother to that tent, and a little bit more backpackable, I will say that. It packs down small. The exoskeleton's beautiful. There's hanging points everywhere to hang a clothesline or a lantern. It's just a really, really great tent. So the first time using this, I will let you guys know tomorrow how I make out with it. So this wood stove, while we're talking about gear, this wood stove is also a new stove. I have burned in it before, but I have not gone camping with it. So this is the first time camping with it. It's very, very fast to set up. It's from Pomali. Very fast to set up. Glass on both sides and the front. And a larger pipe diameter. So they've come out with larger pipe diameters now. I believe this is, I think, like 5 millimeters wider in diameter. I'm not totally sure on that. You'll have to check the specs on the website. But yeah, a little bit of a larger diameter. So it allows for more exhaust, which means more air in, more air out, so hotter fires, and a little bit cleaner burning too. So this stove is excellent. Like I said, I burned in it before, and I do have the little brother to this stove, which you guys have seen in the last video that I was camped right here with the red Pomali tent. The little brother to this stove has no side glass on mine, just the front, and that is probably my favorite wood stove right now. This and that mini stove. That mini stove would even get this tent rocking hot at like minus 15 Celsius outside. Very, very, very strong performing small mini stove. So this thing will hold large pieces of wood, so I'm going to get some larger pieces cut later on. But for now, coffee's talking. It's saying I'm getting cold, so let's enjoy some coffee. My pants are steaming right now, if that's picking up, but this is actually getting quite warm in here even with the door open. I will mention it is negative 6 degrees Celsius outside right now. It's supposed to go down to about negative 11, negative 12 tonight. We'll see what happens. But cheers, guys. Let's enjoy this coffee and have a little bit of a break. Alright guys, coffee is all finished up with, and I just got another pot of snow and ice crystals on top of the stove. I also did bring with me my titanium kettle and 0 water bottles. So my thought process on this trip, much like many trips, is bring the kettle, get some snow and water inside of this for drinks, and if it freezes overnight, which it most likely will, it's already in the kettle, so I just put it on top of the wood stove versus being in a water bottle or a flask that you open the lid and you can't get the ice out. At least the ice will be in the kettle, and I can put the whole kettle on top of the wood stove, and then I'll have water fairly quick. I find the kettle brings water up to temp faster than a pot. Don't know why, I just feel it does. So this titanium kettle, I'm going to fill this up with snow, just like I did with the pot. Cycle them in and out, back and forth as I need them. And like I said, that way I'll have some hot water for morning time without having to get out of the tent and source that out. So a little bit of a camp hack. I did bring a small frying pan as well. I've got my pot for cooking, I've got my wooden cup. That's kind of all the dishes that I brought with me. So the reason why I prefer titanium over steel is it doesn't rust. I can leave this outside in the snow, it's not going to rust, it's not going to tarnish. It's antimicrobial, antibacterial, super lightweight. It works. Is it great for cooking? No, it's not really the greatest. If you have a titanium frying pan, they don't disperse heat a lot, but they're beautiful for boiling, pot, a kettle, cup. Very, very good for that. But a frying pan, titanium, I'd probably say no. So I ended up bringing a different frying pan for that purpose for supper time. So get a little bit more snow and ice in here, get it on the stove. The wind is picking up, there are ice chunks falling from the trees, and it's starting to get noticeably colder. So get all this squared away, get some of this stuff packed inside of the tent so it doesn't get lost, and then start on some supper. All right, guys, just about ready to settle in for some hot supper. Give this a taste here. Oh, yeah, that's ready right now. All right, so grab my brew over here. Bring that a little bit closer. So there's a ton of room inside of this tent, and I'm actually really enjoying the layout of this. Very much. Just the way everything's laid out, the heat kind of goes up and lofts down. It's so hot in here that I have the window and the door open, and I'm almost still too hot sitting here. And it's -7 degrees Celsius right now, so it's cold, but this stove is pumping out the heat. So Boomer has had some dog food, a little bit of chicken breast. I do have a whole other chicken breast that I'm going to be cooking after I'm done eating. Right now, I've got some fresh parsley, like fresh parsley. So let me get this up here and explain what I've cooked. So I've got some chicken breast. I've got some mixed vegetables, broccoli, red cabbage, carrot, just a little bit of a vegetable mix. Got some basmati rice, and then fresh parsley, obviously, broken, not cut, to really get those juices out there, and some butternut squash and carrot soup. I've been waiting for this. Oh man, I've been craving this. Yeah, and it looks like there's some Brussels sprouts in this vegetable mix as well, which is really good. Red cabbage in there, nice and crunchy. Snow pea, broccoli. It's gonna be so good. Let's dig in. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. It could use some pepper. I don't have any with me today, but that parsley and the squash cuts through the blandness. Really good. And I cooked the chicken in coconut oil. I can actually taste the coconut. Awesome. So I'm going to kick back, enjoy this meal, enjoy loads of heat coming out of the stove. And as you guys can see, I've got a massive pile of hardwood. Very excited about that. It's going to burn so nice tonight. Once that door's shut, the window's shut, loft in the heat, get out of these wet clothes, hang them up, dry them. Gotta love winter camping, guys. So I'm going to eat up, and I'll catch up with you guys as soon as I'm finished. Alright guys, well, just in case anybody was wondering if snow's in the forecast, I guess it is. I did not know that. I had no idea it was supposed to snow, but here we are. And it's coming down. pretty thick. It's really, really fine, but it's coming down fast. I don't know how well it's picking up in the light. Coming down fast. The beauty with this tent is that it has a little clip down here that I can actually click in the door and leave it unzipped. Why that's important is if the wind blows, it cannot blow the door into the wood stove and melt it. So very happy with that. Kind of creates like a little channel door to slip in. So it is snowing, and I am inviting this fully. I love it. So perfect time to jump in and continue getting changed, and yeah, I gotta wrap up the night now. I just had to jump out and shut the door and realize, hey, it's snowing. Might as well go stand in it, get nice and soaking wet for a minute, and then go inside. Alright guys, well, it is that time of the evening to get comfortable. So, whew, it is warm in here. Having all this hardwood up here drying out very, very nicely. I mean, the wood's dry itself, but just getting all the moisture off the bark and whatever snow was on the wood, getting that all off really does improve the burn in terms of not blackening the glass and not sending moisture up the pipe, which is then going to come back down. Haven't had any issues with that. I see a lot of people in the comments, not just my channel, but also on other channels, that comment about creosote, tar running down, burning on top of their stove. I can't recall a time in the last 5 years at least of that actually happening. And I burn wet wood. I don't know, I'd say those people probably are really burning some really nasty wet wood, or just don't have the stove settings dialed in right. You do want to burn it hot and clean, but you don't want to burn your stove to, like, 3 feet of red pipe burning up all your wood crazy fast. It takes time, it takes practice. I can go on and on and on about settings on the stove, but realistically, you just got to adjust it to what you see, hear, and smell. After burning a wood stove for over 20 years, you kind of develop a knack of what that stove wants, and then you just provide. So my feet, I can feel my socks are soaking wet. I do have a big pair of socks behind me that I brought. I'm gonna change. I think I'm gonna hang my socks over the lantern, actually. That'll dry out really nice. My overalls, I'm gonna fold. The only part that's wet is down on the feet and the knees. I don't really care about that portion. I just care about my knees. I want these dry. Now my pants underneath, my Fjallravens, are totally dry. Absolutely dry. So that's the bonus of bringing these insulated, heavy-duty canvas overalls, is they're rough, they're tough, you can kneel and stay nice and warm in the winds too. So I'm gonna fold these in a fashion that the knees are facing up. Prop those somewheres in here, probably on top of the wood pile for a little while. I got my backpack in here situated just off to the side of the stove. Boomer loves laying on top of that next to the stove. So that's going to be his little thing until later on when he does crawl into bed. We're going to be burning this rather hot. I do have a pot. That snow is all melted, but I like to boil it tonight. That way it's clean. If I do want a cold drink, or Boomer wants a cold drink, he can have that. So, getting out of the overalls. I have a long sleeve shirt on underneath. I'm going to be putting my hoodie back on, I think. But yeah, my Fjallravens are totally dry. I'm actually really stoked about that. So I'm going to get changed and basically zip the tent door shut. Probably damp this down because it's going to be way too hot in here burning like that. So get it burning nice and low. And enjoy a movie, kick back and relax. So I'll see you guys first thing in the morning for coffee. Good night, everybody. Good morning, everybody. It is a wet, as you guys can see, kind of chilly morning today. So last night, this was happening last night, of course. The tent is still soaking wet, dripping from all the heat inside of the tent with the door shut, the wood stove cranked up. It was about 30 degrees Celsius in there at some points, laying down on the ground. When I sat up, it was too hot, so I actually cracked this main door open quite a bit, and the half moon. I have the kickstand vent here and on the other side open, and I damped the stove way down to get it to a nice temperature. It hit minus 10 degrees Celsius last night, was the last time I checked. It snowed. I got a lot of footage of the snow on my other channel, link in the description. I didn't get out with this camera and do a whole setup too much of the snow. But I definitely got the action camera out last night, and it was snowing. It was like blizzard, super fine. It was just hitting the tent, sounded like static, like someone was just showering sand on the tent. For a good 4 to 5 hours, it did that, and it got cold. And coming outside, there was a ton of snow, stoking up the wood stove, getting nice and warm. And then all of a sudden, probably maybe 2 o'clock in the morning, I start hearing loud thumps on the tent. And I know that's big chunks of wet, heavy snow falling from the trees hitting the tent. The temperatures came up. I didn't know the temperatures came up, of course, until I crawled out of my giant down sleeping bag and looked outside. It's dripping. The whole forest is dripping. So a radical, drastic temperature change from -10 to right now it feels like 0 degrees, maybe +1. This isn't quite freezing, but some of these water droplets are starting to crust and get really slow, like it's going to turn to slush. So I'd say it's probably 1 degree Celsius, we'll say. Almost to the freezing point. There's no steam coming off anywhere, so that typically means it's warmer. No steam. And yeah, silent. Silent out here, other than the drops tapping on the tent, which is beautiful. Inside the wood stove right now, I've got it loaded full of hardwood. I'm going to toss in some softwood in there, sit back, enjoy this cup of coffee, and soak in some of that heat. Alright guys, so after chilling out with coffee for about 10 or 15 minutes, just looking at the wood stove, it's pretty much at a point where I feel comfortable taking it out and dumping it out. The ground's total snow cover, it's wet out here, so it makes it very easy. Basically what I do is my leather gloves, I put those on, grab the pipe, pop it off of the stove very quickly, let that drop down to the ground because it's extra long so it won't do anything. Take the stove, bring it outside, dump it, open up the door, take the top off, let the cold air get in there. It's titanium, it cools down very quick. That's the benefit of these stoves. And then I've got my backpack, my tools, sleeping kit, all of that stuff. My overalls I'm going to have to wear, not for warmth, but it's soaking wet out here, and my jacket as well. I'm going to be pushing through this stuff drenched, so unfortunately I'm going to have to wear it. It's a little on the warmer side to wear that stuff, but unzipping it, venting it should be okay. So wood stove, cooking stuff, sleeping stuff, down bag packs down very small, sleeping pad packs down very small, all inside the backpack. I'm not gonna bother filming the pack up process. It's really wet today. I just want to get it done, and honestly, sometimes I film it, sometimes I don't. I find it kind of redundant. It's just the opposite of me filming the setup, which I always do in the beginning of the video. So I do that so people can see how the tent sets up, so people can see the process of how it goes, and I think that eliminates a lot of questions for those who pay attention. Some people still ask questions that I've already shown with the camera, but that's okay. Basically, I'm going to finish up this little bit of coffee. I did film a whole other video of this behind the scenes on my other channel. The link's in the description. You guys can see all the snow last night, a bunch of filmmaking things, behind the scenes, bloopers, deleted footage, all of that good stuff you guys have been asking for is on my other channel. So be sure to check it out. Link in the description. Boomer's soaking up a little bit of this heat right in front of the stove. Little does he know, it's time to go. So I'm going to finish this coffee, get that stove yanked out of here, and I'm going to say peace out and see you guys in the next episode. So thank you for enjoying. We'll catch you in the next one.